Hi, and welcome to The Price Report. Your host, Samuel J. Price, and every single Wednesday night, I have a discussion with a crypto lifer, someone that has put their life into crypto, someone that has dedicated themselves to their YouTube channel, to maybe their Twitter account, or whatever media that they have that they really want to push cryptocurrency out. This is one of my favorite people. She's been on the show a few times. I figured why not have her on maybe once a month as it's been going. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Miss Teen Crypto. Miss Teen Crypto, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I greatly appreciate your time and being here with us. How's your day going? How you feeling? How's everything for you today?
What's up, Sam? I'm chilling. I'm doing good. Watching a little bit of Bitcoin volatility today. We started the day at like 28K, then we flash crashed at 27, just above 26. And now we're kind of in the middle again. Meme coins are popping off. I'm just absorbed in all this decentralized finance, but I'm having a good time. And I hope you're doing well too. And the Lifer fam, shouts to you guys. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to see our communities mesh together really well because it's the energy and it's the vibrance and it's the frequency that you put out, that I put out. It's aligned. So I love going to your show and seeing livers there. I love coming on my show and seeing people that I've seen on your show. And it's been a really cool meshing of the communities. It's been really, really nice. So might as well just jump on into the topics today because some of them are pretty interesting. And the first thing I want to talk about is this article here. The Internal Revenue Service files claims worth $44 billion against FTX bankruptcy. And it further goes on to state that they have a big claim of $20.4 billion and another claim of $7.9 billion and then another one of $9.5 equaling, close to about $44 billion. Pretty interesting to say. When I look at this and I think about all the poor people that got hit with this horrible event, right? They dreamed of changing their life with cryptocurrency. Maybe their friend had done it. They had seen someone 10x Dogecoin and they said, maybe that could be me. And they parked their funds on FTX and it disappeared. Poof, it's gone, right? And a billionaire took it too, or a guy that supposedly had $1 billion. What's your take on the IRS kind of dipping their hand into the pot here? Shouldn't, my assumption is, shouldn't these people, the claim holders and the actual people that had their money on the exchange, shouldn't they be credited at first? What's your take on this?
Well, isn't the government supposed to protect us, Sam? What? Where's the protection, guys? Oh, it's like a knee slapper. Because again, there's so much money being thrown around. Alameda just got paid from OKX as well. There's just billions, literal billions of dollars being thrown around. No one gets it. The people, the smaller people who had their money on FTX, they don't get the money. It's just the people who are involved with FTX get the money. The government is getting the money. But if they were really out to protect us like they say they are, then why aren't they protecting us, getting that liquidity, getting that money back and giving it to the people so that way we're whole again? Apparently, FTX is still solvent, according to Sam Bankman-Fried. He said that way back in November when they filed for Chapter 11. Meanwhile, the doors are still closed. I really don't have hope for any savior because, we're always the ones that get left holding the bag. But it just reiterates that, you just can't trust anyone. You have to trust yourself. You have to be your own bank and use exchanges like they are. They are exchanges. You go there, you exchange your fiat for cryptocurrency. You take that cryptocurrency and you put it in your wallet. And that's it.
The other night, I'm sitting up late at night. It was like 11:30. I was ending the day, and I was looking at one of my accounts recently, and I said, let me get all my AGIX to my hardware wallet. Let me get all my, and then I was like, how much Bitcoin? I've been buying Bitcoin on Binance US, on Next Global, on, a little bit on KuCoin, and I was like, man, I don't even know how much Bitcoin I bought recently. I just been throwing it at, and I said, let me actually find out how much I have, and let me send it back to my hardware wallet, and I was like, doing my due diligence. That night, I put my hardware wallet away. I went to bed feeling so amazing, free. You know what I mean? I can't wake up to a rug pull. I can't wake up to some unknown thought. I became, responsible for my own bank. I took the right precautions. You just hit the nail on the head. We have to exchange, but that's not where you park your funds forever.
It's
right?
not a bank. That's why we left TradFi. We left TradFi because we didn't want a custodian holding our funds anymore. We didn't make the same mistake going to an exchange. It's just like if you went to an airport, you exchange your fiat currency for, let's say you exchange your US dollars for euros. You're not going to say, okay, here's my $20 in USD, and then they're going to give you the euros. And then you're like, oh, I trust you. I'm going to leave this money on the counter. And then come back later. Obviously someone might take that from you. You take that money, you take those euros, you put them in your pocket and your wallet, and you go and spend it. The same thing applies to crypto. You exchange your fiat currency for a digital currency, take that digital currency, put it in your wallet, and you could spend as is. I think that's what a lot of people have to refer to it as, because it is just an exchange. It's just a currency exchange. And like, I think even saying buying Bitcoin is like a term that we're going to have to get past in the future too, because technically we're not buying anything. We're just exchanging one currency for another.
I like that. Do you have a preferred hardware wallet? I use Trezor. I have a Ledger. I have an Arculus now. I got an Arculus one. It's like a cool card that connects to your to an app in your phone. But is there one that you like that you're using now that you like to get down with?
I love Cool Wallet. I think Cool Wallet's great. It's underrated. I'm also a proponent of Ledger, Trezor, Arculus, Ballet Wallet. I do love. I've been using Ballet was actually my first wallet I ever used back in 2019 when they first launched. So, and my dad came back with it after the Litecoin summit. Yes, there it is.
I met
love
Bobby
those,
Lee,
the preloaded ones.
and I thought about you.
Great.
I met Bobby Lee, and I was thinking about you because I was like, oh, she knows Bobby. I met him at Consensus, and I got to put my hand. I got to put my hand in this ball, and I won 50,000 sats. You know what I mean? So
that's awesome.
On my channel, we're giving a hardware wallet of we're giving one of these away every couple of weeks, just because they're pretty cool. They're easy. They've never had an issue, right? No one's ever kind of talked about losing funds, or they're very interoperable. They're extremely secure to use and very, very easy. So cool. Yeah, I remember that.
I love them.
You have the Ballet connection there. That's really cool. Yeah, he's funny. He was a very nice guy. It was really cool to meet him. So yeah, that's awesome. So you okay, I get it. Now, when it comes to the IRS, right, dipping their hand in the pot. Now, do you think is that something they should be doing? Like, are they like, where is that money going to go? I always wonder, like, is it really ever going to get back into the people? Are they going to spend it on government funds or relations? Like, I don't personally know where that money goes when people pay the IRS. Like, is it just to hire more agents? Is it to do more due diligence? How do they decide that they need the money first? You know what I mean? Over the American people or just anyone else that had their money on the exchange?
I think they just want to deter people from crypto. So they're like, oh, yeah, FTX went down and no one got their money back. Why did no one get their money back? Because you took it all. And they're going to spend it on all the new people that they hired to come after crypto. But honestly, none of it's going to work out in the future. I think it's just a waste of money. And they're trying to intimidate people. That's all. Because if it was anything else, maybe in the TradFi system, they would have probably refunded people already. But because it has something to do with crypto, they want to push people away from crypto and try to connect FTX with Bitcoin, even though it's a split issue. Like, it's not the same. That's what they intentionally want to do. They want to scare people.
That's like a bank going down and then telling everyone that the US dollar is not worth, you know what I mean? It's like, even though they try to do the opposite, but we know they're connected and it is probably going to go down. But yeah, it's like saying just because there's one issue in an exchange that has something to do with Bitcoin has nothing. Actually, Bitcoin is supposed to be held on a hardware wallet. You're supposed to get your own node, technically, really, like Trace Meyer says, and go all the way, which I haven't done yet. But hopefully one day when I have a nice cooling system in my house and things right, I can set up the proper node and run a node on Bitcoin. I mean, that's what we all technically should be doing. But, again, I'm not perfect. I'm still working on doing everything I should in crypto. Now, this also leads me back to, pushing us away from cryptocurrency, like you said. It seems like every government agency that we have, from the SEC to the CFTC to even like the DOJ, is saying it's just really not helping bring clarity to the space, as if they want to run people out of cryptocurrency. And so when we look at this idea, U.S. lawmakers hold EU and UK as examples of crypto regulation in joint hearing. We're supposed to be the forefront. We're the progression. We started the dot-com bubble. You know what I mean? We kind of started the beginning of a lot of the new innovation tech that we see to this day. Why are we being held back? How did the EU step in front of us and create regulation before us? How does that make you feel as an up-and-coming crypto person? And would you ever think of moving out of the United States? Or do you want to stay home until we win the fight?
I think we could win the fight, because I think it's just like a pushback, because the dollar is the world reserve currency as of right now, which I don't know if it's going to last long because of BRICS and everything that's going on with the Chinese yuan. You have the Russian ruble. So there's a lot of competing things happening right now. But I think overall, regulation, it should be in the US. But again, they want dollar dominance. Dollar dominance is diminishing. We're seeing banking crises. And I think they want to just wait until they have no other option. And I think that's what's been happening a lot with Bitcoin point in crypto is that they're waiting until they don't have another option. Right now, they won't even, the SEC won't even define what a digital asset is. That's a little worrisome that they keep pushing back this deadline. Now, Coinbase is trying to force them to give an answer, which is good. I think that, again, it's all about dollar dominance. They want to preserve it, but I think it's actually backfiring. And the EU, they're going to take advantage. Obviously, even Hong Kong, it's freaking China. They're taking advantage and literally saying the Chinese government that the US is falling behind and that they're going to take advantage because, listen, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, it's code. Anyone could run and execute this code. It's just a matter of who wants to do it first. There was even a report from the Pentagon that literally said, someone from the Pentagon said Bitcoin could prevent war because in the future, Bitcoin is going to be valued so much that whoever has the most mining power, whichever country has the most mining power, will have the most power. Because again, no wars have to be fought for Bitcoin. You just have to run and execute the code. So people want to build up their Bitcoin. They want to build up because, again, there's only 21 million. It would be stupid of governments not to be buying Bitcoin and getting involved with it. Our government's just pushing it behind because they feel like they want to maintain and have the dominance. But again, that's going to change. Even states are changing that. You have even other states saying they don't want CBDCs. You have the states like Utah. I forgot what the actual act is. I think it's the Digital Signature Act, where they're protecting your private keys. Other states want to accept Bitcoin as payment, Bitcoin for taxes, A, B, and C. So it's going to build up on the state level until the federal level cracks. But the EU, they're taking advantage of our weakness.
Yeah, I mean, when there's a gap, someone will fill the gap, right?
Absolutely.
If you decide
free money, free innovation.
Right? And how many companies are going to think about starting a charter or opening up, and they're going to say, they're going to go to a legal counsel, and the counsel's going to say, man, you're way better off in the UK. You're way better off, doing this in a completely different country, Dubai, right, than doing it here in America. And maybe we can go to America eventually. Like Coinbase recently had to open up its derivatives exchange in the Bermuda, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So, it's just sad. It's sad when, and Coinbase is like they said, we're so dedicated to our American business. Like, we're not giving up our American business. Like, we're going to stand strong. They're spending millions of dollars. They said they went to Washington 40 times or something, begging for answers, sitting there waiting, never got responses, never got full meetings. And it makes you wonder who's hiding what. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, it's big banks, it's big money controlling the narrative, and they don't want to see any, crypto slide its way in there. But maybe, today something happened recently. I don't have an article about it, but this Canton, it's called a Canton chain,
yes,
I believe,
yes.
right? And it's going to have Deloitte, Goldman Sachs, Microsoft. I mean, that and the CBOE, that's interesting to me.
And the S&P, I think.
Right? So that is like, but again, is that going to be a dominant tyrant chain? Like, are they trying to enforce a Bitcoin or a blockchain that they have complete control over? Are they ever going to let like Bitcoin become legal tender? Do you think Bitcoin will become legal tender here in America?
I think it's possible, but I think what we're seeing now, I think like with BRC20 tokens, like I think people are looking at Bitcoin as more of a store of value. So I think another altcoin is going to come in and be legal tender for a lot of these countries. Trust in that. And I know that's scaring a ton of maxis. They're going to be so mad at me, Sam, but I don't care. I'm just going to say my honest truth. I do think, what it comes down to, again, like, they want to preserve the dollar. Obviously, it's not going to get there. And I think, of course, Bitcoin could be the reserve currency, but I think as legal tender, you're going to need something that's going to be able to scale. No, that's just my opinion.
No, amen.
I know Lightning Network I know everyone's like, oh, Lightning Network. But people that actually like the Lightning Network are saying it's too expensive right now to even run a node. And like, even the Lightning fees are getting pretty high. So I would again, I've been just seeing that. Of course, maybe someone more technical could explain it better than me, but definitely it's getting a little expensive to execute Bitcoin, even on Lightning Network. And where did the Lightning Network come from? Litecoin. So Litecoin, this is where Litecoin comes in. It's actually able to scale. You could build on it. There's privacy, fungibility with MWeb, and that's what's really going to come. And people are going to realize it when it, obviously probably when it runs or when people more adopt it more. Because if you look at the CFTC, the only coins that the CFTC even gave clarity on was Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, USDT, and BUSD are commodities. So that was bullish for Litecoin. And of course, there was a bill that was proposed in New York to pay your taxes, fees, your rent, things like that. Bitcoin, Litecoin, ETH, Bitcoin Cash. And then even today, the New York said you could pay bail with Bitcoin, which I thought was so funny. I feel like they're trolling us at this point, but like,
That's funny. So let me
yeah.
find out. Do you have bags of Litecoin? Litecoin was my first coin. $5. I was going around at the job I was at.
$5?
I told everyone you need to buy this thing. It's because Coinbase had 3 coins at the time, right? My whole story is a guy was walking down the street when I wasn't into crypto yet, and I think he had a Bitcoin shirt on, and I half knew what Bitcoin was, but I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the halving, and I said, "Oh, I know that logo. I've seen that before. What is that?" And he goes, "It's the Bitcoin logo, man." He goes, "I was one of the coders on Ethereum." He said there was 200 of us, all working together, and he said, "Man, it's $9." And he showed me Coin Market Cap on his phone, and he said, "You should get in." And it went to 89. I didn't buy, but I eventually bought it at $89. I was like, man. And then I saw Litecoin. And so there was Bitcoin, there was Ethereum, and then Litecoin came out of nowhere. And I said, well, Bitcoin was 500, it's $3,000 now. I said Ethereum was $9, it went to 60, 70, $89. And I saw Litecoin at $5. And just, me just being, I've been very good at speculating my whole, that's kind of my career. I came to terms that I'm a really good speculator, as much as I am a trader. And what that means to everyone, just, maybe not in the gray area of that idea, is I'm able to think what the future will bring. And I put plots of money into, emerging technologies that I believe will come up. They don't all pan out, but I've been about 80% accurate in my speculating. That's great. In my life. Yeah, it's been very rare that I've taken a huge hit on that. And so I said Litecoin, $5, probably going to go up more because, it was the only other thing you could buy. And I said, people can't afford a $500 or a $3,000 Bitcoin. Or maybe it was $2,000 at the time. Don't quote me on the exact pricing of the disparities between them two. But I remember seeing it, and I was walking around my office like, you got to buy this Litecoin, and it would go to $400, right, at one point, which was a 40x, right, which an 80x really from the $5 Litecoin. I would sell a lot of it at 97 and $1, and so I didn't ride it all the way up. But again, I love Litecoin. Right now, I hold I think about 7,000 USD just sitting in Litecoin. And some days I'm wondering, what do I do with it? You know what I mean? But we have a halving coming up. We were just talking about it on Sin City Crypto. And I believe it's going to pump, somewhere into the 100, 120, maybe even $140 to $150 region. As long as Bitcoin plays ball, it looks like Litecoin could get that move into the halving. Are you excited about the Litecoin halving? Does that get you going? Is that something that you've been researching and looking at?
Yes, I think Litecoin halving is so important. It's just like Bitcoin halving. It's an inflation schedule that's controlled and it's decentralized. And Litecoin is the longest running blockchain with 100% uptime. Not even Bitcoin can say that. So it's probably the most reliable blockchain out there. It's cheaper, faster, easy to use. It's probably the most accessible. And Litecoin transactions actually hit a new all-time high yesterday or the day before because of the Bitcoin fees being too high, because of ETH fees being too high. People need an alternative. And that's where Litecoin steps in. And there's a lot of good technology there. Again, OmniLite. You could build on top of Litecoin, and then you have MWeb, which gives you fungibility, which gives you privacy. And I think that's so key for sound money is that, yes, I want to be able to have transparency in the financial system and where people are moving money. That's what Bitcoin and half Litecoin is for. And then you could opt in for MWeb, where, again, the only people who know the amount you're sending and who you're sending to is just, for example, me and you. And I think that's so important because it truly gives you that cash feeling where you're going and transacting with cash and you're going to Dunkin' Donuts and buying a coffee. Who knows the amount you're spending and who knows who's spending it? Just me and the cashier. That's it. And I think that's what you need for sound money, especially when you have all these things going on in the world. People want to stop payments and they want to block addresses and things like that. Litecoin fixes that. And it's just a matter of time until people really realize it. I think Litecoin's underrated and it's going to have its time really soon where people are talking about Bitcoin now. They're going to be talking about maybe Litecoin later in the future because, again, people want something cheaper. And it still has that finite supply of 84 million Litecoin versus the 21 million Bitcoin. So it still has the scarcity factor. It's like Bitcoin's digital gold and Litecoin can be looked at as like a digital silver.
Yeah, before Tether was running on, now whenever I move money around now, I'm using Tether on the Tronic, TRC20 Tether.
Yeah, it's super
cheap.
Fast.
But before that was out there, you'd catch me buying some Litecoin, sending Litecoin on over to the exchange. It was super fast, super easy. And it was amazing. Mimble-wimble, right? That they got the Mimble-wimble thing going. I see what you're saying because the other day I was thinking about I'm a pretty good sleuth, a sleuth, right? Where I can kind of go through the details and I'm super detail orientated and I can figure a lot of things out other people don't just by simply researching and sitting on my computer. And you're right. Say I had a wallet with, let's say, I don't know, $500,000 of Litecoin, which I do not have. Let's just say I did, right? And I transferred it to another wallet, like my spend wallet. And then I went out and I spent $5, right? The smart person could grab that that address, right? They could be like, huh? They could search the address incomings. They could see, oh, it came, and then they could find out that I was my net worth was over, $500,000 or more.
Yeah.
And the next time I buy that coffee in, if they ever, who knows, they might follow me home or so. You know what I mean? It just, as much as I love the transparency of blockchain, there also is that safety issue where we need it to be a little more secure. I mean, Bitcoin now has Taproot, which makes it, you can't see the transactions as much. It's more private, but it's also not prevalent enough for people to realize it. You almost have to be like a Bitcoin nerd to know about it. So, you make up you push a lot of good points about Litecoin. I'm super happy that you love Litecoin. It's pretty interesting because people make fun of the Litecoin people. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, Litecoin. You know what I mean? But usually, what the masses think is usually not the case, and there's a lot behind the scenes when it comes to Litecoin. This is interesting.
Yeah, I've been talking about like Bitcoin. If you look at there's a GIF. If you look up like Litecoin or Digibyte, there's like a GIF of me with a Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Digibyte shirt, and it's like me going like this because I did that in one of my videos. People like gifted, and I've always been about proof of work. That's why I really like Bitcoin. That's why I like Litecoin, and even I mentioned Digibyte before, which is also proof of work and something that's really good for money too. It's like snap instant payments even faster than Litecoin, which is crazy, but only by a few seconds. And it's also secure as well. It's been around for a really long time. But I also love Ethereum as well. I love what's going on there. Open the doors for DeFi and everything. But I like proof of work. I like accessibility. And when I think of Gen Z and the future of money, that's what we want. Something accessible, something that's liquid, fast, and cheap.
It's so interesting you say that. I feel like you're an old soul, right? Because like you go back to the traditional ideas and traditional values that keep things secure. I'm also a big proof of work guy. Like when Ethereum went to proof of stake, like I wasn't the happiest camper, to be honest.
Same.
Like everyone thought it was going to be awesome. And I'm like, I thought about some of the blockchains that I first got into, and, they were talking about governance, right? Like, oh, if you stake, then you can have the governance token usually. That's kind of a lot of these blockchains. You'll stake the original coin, and then you can either get the governance token or you actually have, the amount that you stake gives you the right to vote. What happens is the people with the most money stake the most. So it takes the decentralization out of it when the biggest boys can stake and then basically say what's going to happen to the blockchain. You know what I mean? It almost makes you wonder, like, is it really decentralized? Some people say the same for Bitcoin, but look, mining went from China all the way to Texas, right? Now there's Russia. Like there's never one whole entity controlling the entire Bitcoin network. No. And that's what's interesting to me about blockchain, right? And that brings me to our last idea, which is, again, how the SEC and the powers that be are controlling the narrative here in America yet again. Red alert, 76 cryptocurrencies are now illegal. Could it be one that you're holding? You never know. And what it's saying is the SEC is to crack down on crypto, and its most recent dragnet could change the way you see your tokens. Some names thrown out there were Terra, FTT, Ripple. We know that Kraken recently got a Wells notice, right? Binance as well. And again, a lot of people freak out about this stuff when, the CFTC throws something at it. A lot of these are fines, everybody. They're not criminal lawsuits. They're civil lawsuits. Like, you just got to pay your way out, and then you can usually continue to do business. So it's not the worst deal. It's cash grabs. A lot of it is cash grabs. But what it does do is it hinders our growth in the system, because if you're taking, say we innovate and they get a bunch of VCs or venture capitalists or investment firms put a bunch of money into a project, and they raise $300 million, half $1 billion, and then they have to spend 150 on fines. That's a bunch of coders that they can't hire, right? That's a bunch of innovation that they can't move forward with. Every single time they cash grab from the industry, they it's like you're pulling a horse by the reins. You're trying to drag us through the mud a little bit. Kind of brings us to our first topic, but what do you think about that? Does it scare you? I feel like you don't live in fear. I feel like you would lead like the crusade on your horse. Like but what is it? How does that make you feel? And do are there any currencies that that may become illegal that you like moving forward?
I don't know any that could become illegal. I feel like anything they want to say is like what they do. But again, it's like they said BUSD was a security, right? That's what the SEC said. They sent Paxos a Wells notice and said, oh, you can't mint BUSD, but their Pax USD or some PUSD, something like that, their own stablecoin was able to mint. What's the difference? It was just because BUSD was the top 3 stablecoin at the time. It had a lot of liquidity. People were using it. Now, then the CFTC comes out and says, oh, BUSD is a commodity. So is Tether. So is Bitcoin, Litecoin, ETH. So it's like you could like listen to what they say, but at the end of the day, like none of it really correlates. And It's strictly code. Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, it's just code. No one can stop you from running code and executing the code. So they could try to regulate all they want, but will it work? No, right? Like, how many times has China banned Bitcoin? How many times have like people banned Bitcoin and then the people just went somewhere else? Or they just continue building there because obviously nothing can stop it, right? I don't know. Maybe you can call me ignorant, but that's exactly how it's been going. And if you pay attention to a lot of the things that have been happening, yeah, so many countries said they were going to ban Bitcoin. They're the same countries that are mining Bitcoin the most now, like China. So it's just like a give and take. Just do what you think is right. If you do your own research and you believe in what you're investing in, if you believe in cryptocurrency and the revolution that's here, then regulation should have no fear on your mind. I don't have any fear on my mind. I live in New York. It's the worst state to live in for crypto. But I have so much faith because I went and taught my former high school twice, 2 years in a row about investing in Bitcoin. And then I even went to Gracie Mansion, the mayor's house of New York, and I went to speak to the youth there about Bitcoin and crypto. I have so much hope because this is so early. We're so early in crypto. I think less than 1% of the world owns crypto, and Bitcoin's only 14 years old. And look how much of an impact it had. If you think it had this much of an impact already, imagine what the next 2-3 years is going to be, especially because our traditional financial system is not the same as it was 3-4 years ago, even where our dollars inflated. 40 to 50% of our money supply was printed between 2020 and 21. Banks are going down. People are saying, oh, wait, maybe I don't trust a custodian with my money anymore. People are saying, I don't want money under my mattress because I'm posing a physical risk to myself. Where's the safest way to store my value and to actually keep my money safe? And that is with Bitcoin, crypto, keeping your money in a cold storage wallet. That's the only thing that can't be taken from you. And that's what's important.
You know what I like about it too is you could memorize the seed phrase, and
yes.
they could like storm your house and search all your crypto, and you could just sit there.
They could take your ledger,
and
but
you could play the fifth.
You could play
the fifth and be like, I can't incriminate myself, so I'm never going to give you the seed phrase. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? So it's just sitting there like, okay, you know, you bring up such a good point. I look at, you know, I've seen some of the bigger traders on Twitter, some people that I've known trading for a while, and they're still calling for 10,000 Bitcoin in low Bitcoin prices.
Bruh.
And I just see the macroeconomic scale of banks collapsing, the halving. So we have like a freight train coming here. We have the halving, we have banks collapsing, we have more countries getting off of, you know, the central banking systems that they know have just deteriorated them. El Salvador really started to move. Once other countries see what's going on there, they're like, why aren't we doing what they're doing? You know, and remember how the World Bank and the IMF got all mad at El Salvador? It's funny. It's like every time they show their cards, we can see what's going on. Like they should have just said nothing at all, right? But when they attacked El Salvador, you're like, oh, there they go. They're trying to hold a power move here. They're trying to get, they're trying to basically scare people away from what the truth is. I believe the truth always does win in the end. The good shall inherit the earth. I firmly believe that. But I think I always go back to William Wallace and Braveheart, but you know, people get suppressed first and then they win their freedom, right? So there's always pain, you know, in every revolution in the world that you've ever seen. It started with, you know, the foot on the neck. You're going to do what we tell you to do. This is what it is. And then eventually people just said, no, enough is enough. And what I love, like you said too, and I've said recently, is you don't need any army. You don't need any weaponry. You know, you need an army. You need tanks, nuclear weapons, basically, you know, violence to keep the U.S. dollar sound and secure, right? It basically has no intrinsic value based on the idea that our army will come and just crush you if you like don't take our sanctions or don't do the right thing. Bitcoin has no government behind it like that, and it's getting stronger than any It's getting stronger than any army ever was. Yep. That blows my mind. Like that gives me the chills. I'm like, wow, we're still so early. There's still so much going on. Every time I have you on, you know, I didn't even think we were going to get into Litecoin, but like you sparked another idea for me, and it really took this whole discussion to a whole new level. Every time I have you on, I feel like I'm talking to, you know, someone who's just has far more knowledge than your years. You impress me every time. I love having you on the show. I love watching your show. Anything you want to say to people here? Anything you want to take it for the last few words of the discussion? And I really appreciate this. This was awesome. This price report is going to be one of the best ever.
Oh, thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate the Lifer fam, first of all. I really do appreciate you guys. Whenever I jump in, you know, the live streams, you guys are always so nice. And then you guys come into my live streams, and I just like love the synergy we have. So shout out to the Lifer fam. You guys are like top-notch zesty individuals. I think everyone needs to keep calm, hodl on, do your own research. I know there's a lot of things going on in the world, a lot of distractions going on. If you do your own research, you stick to the fundamentals of this space versus the pumpamentals, you will be okay. Keep calm, hodl on, stay zesty, and follow me at Miss Teen Crypto everywhere. And come for the Daily Zest weekdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. That's where all the cool kids hang out right after Sam's stream in the morning, which is also awesome for awesome TA. So thank you. I really do appreciate you, man.